A gente teve alguns contratempos com os dois palestrantes da palestra de abertura e por isso a gente está tentando conexão por telefone com um deles. O professor Paul Amar está fazendo isso agora. E gostaria de convidar então o Christian Davis Bailey to come here and to be with us at the beginning of our activities. Please, Christian, can you join us? A gente está só tentando conexão antes.
Okay. You're gonna give it on the phone. What? Do you have the PowerPoint? Did you send it by email? He sent it by email to Amanda? Yeah, but it's okay. We might not have the PowerPoint. We have no interest. Do your best. We'll just have to do it verbally. I mean, it's we're doing. This is so it's not balancing at all. Okay. How long is it?
Antes da gente começar, It's okay? A gente vai chamar o professor Paul Amar para explicar o motivo pelo qual os dois palestrantes não puderam comparecer. Uma delas ficou presa numa nevasca em Nova York e o outro palestrante, que a gente vai conectar por telefone agora, o Momen, teve um problema na universidade. Vou passar para o professor Paul Amar.
Coisa um pouco esquisita, mas então tinha um problema de visto para o participante, então no último momento achou que não podia vir, chegou no aeroporto e tudo. Então chegou o participante Momen El-Hosseiny, que é um urbanista, arquiteto e antropólogo em Cairo, que é um militante dos movimentos sociais, entre os movimentos como o Sem Teto e também movimentos no outro lado do espectro político, entre os elites nos bairros mais elite, e também faz trabalho de campo nos bairros mais excluídos, tipo informal, no Cairo. Então ele faz análises da base de movimentos sociais entre as duas classes de alojamento. Então é muito interessante, e mistura a questão de racialização e classe, construção de marginalização lá no Cairo. Então ele vai falar um pouco sobre os movimentos e a Revolução de 2011 como um fenômeno urbanista, como produzido pelo tecido de exclusão social no contexto urbano, e também como produção de novas ondas de movimentos sociais entre a juventude e entre movimentos comunitários no tecido urbano. Então a gente vai tentar ligá-lo diretamente por telefone, falar assim por telefone de Cairo, do escritório dele na Universidade de Cairo, como assim, estamos voltando para os anos 70 aqui, com palestra por telefone. Just introduced you in Portuguese. Are you still there? Okay, so there we go. Okay. Tá ligado?
Hello?
Yeah, speak. You're on.
Hi?
You're live. Go.
Yeah. Hello. Hello, Rio. Okay, from Cairo, I'm starting the presentation. So, I hope that the presentation will be there, but let me contextualize the whole city and Tahrir Square to give you a background. So, the Cairo city, with a population of around 20 plus million inhabitants. So it's more or less something as big as Sao Paulo. So when the historical formation of Tahrir Square goes back to the 19th century. where we had a ruler called Ismail who wanted to mimic the architecture and urban planning of Paris, of Baron of Mon. So the idea of visibility was a key issue there because the old Islamic Cairo was congested and in urban form it was agglomerated and you cannot really control it in terms of biopolitics. So in that regard, opening avenues was an issue that could be used for the governing, controlling mechanisms. So they mimicked Paris in that regard, and it was under the idea of visibility over public space. So it was about producing new citizens, it's about producing new modern citizens, that then you are providing public space, but within a certain inscription of modes and morality of how to behave in public space. So this is here where is the twist, is that public space is offered, but not the one that would inhabit a diversity and differences, but rather a certain code of conduct that is pertaining to what the governing ruler believes in. So in that regard, the production of Tahrir Square and the new quarter in Cairo that is adjacent to the old Islamic Cairo was based on this mentality of opening up, but opening up according to certain rules and ideologies. And this is something important because in that regard is that we have never in Egypt I would argue, we have never had the notion of public space that is democratic. This notion of public space does not exist. Maybe we have publicness, but no public space. And this is where Tahrir Square 2011 moment was important, because it was for the first time since the 19th century of the formation of Cairo as Tahrir Square and Seminário quarter in 1867 that there appeared many people together in one space, people of different backgrounds, social classes, working labor, religious backgrounds, cultural beliefs. They all came together, and this created the moment of public space, the long-awaited moment of public space. Then we question. Now I have on the slide the image where everyone is flowing into Tahrir Square. But then this is the question. This is a moment that is important. But is the moment of contestation something that is temporal or it is permanent? Is it something that is about space in a given moment, or is something that is unfolding? And this is where what we are hoping, or what we are working on, or what we are deliberating, is that Tahrir Square was just a moment that then erupted things to everywhere else. So if we look at the map of Cairo, we will realize that the formation of the new metropolitan Cairo started from 1991 with the production of new legal spaces and gated communities. Gated communities that mushroomed all around Cairo, trying to repopulate the center, moving people outwards with the production of more than 250 gated communities. Definitely, it was about the urban, it was about the upper middle classes, but also a lot of urban poor began to move around the gated communities to create a domestic supporting settlement for the rich. So what we began to see is a kind of a dilapidated status of inside cities, but also this is where the 2011 was a counter movement to the political mobilization of urban governance to the satellite cities. So it was kind of like returning back to the center and mobilizing, people were mobilizing to the center. However, this movement continued from January 2011 until July 2011. this is where the government began to realize, oh, no, we have to control Tahrir Square. We have to use some mechanisms in order to block people off and demoralize people who go there. But also this came in the way of materializing things. So believe it or not, and these were the slides that I was hoping that you would see, that they began to build walls around streets leading to Tahrir Square. They blocked off the revolution space. Not only that, they also built security detectors, like those in gated communities, like those in shopping malls, like those that you have to go through, but in the airports, as you go into the Tahrir Square. And in that sense, they believe that this is a big problematic issue, is that it's a public space, but it's no more really public. It is under the rules and governance of the police, security, and everyone who are against these people who are coming in. So how do people react? Actually, people reacted in very, somehow, in diverse ways. One of which was actually to use these walls and cemented blocks as a way, as a medium for freedom of expression. So they began to draw on them, and they began to paint and created walls and a lot of artwork along these walls. But that was to some extent until a moment that then people realized, and activists, that basically we are caged inside this international space. And they are not connecting to the whole of Cairo, to Parque Cairo, which is more than 20 plus million inhabitants. So what happened that there were several movements that began to take this on, one of which is called Coloring Through Corruption. And it was a movement that believed that we need to render the invisible visible. And they decided that, yes, political struggle over power, over who rules, began to take place between the Muslim Brotherhood and the military, and a lot of sections of power inside the city, inside the country. But what about thinking about the other issues that are as important as this notion of power, which is the corruption that sits every day. And this is where they decided that they would move away from Tahrir Square throughout the city and clean any situation that includes corruption. It was really fascinating because they were targeting areas that were taken by real estate developers, things that are corrupted even by small funds, not funds, like gurus who are taking over settlements. They began to paint corruption by the state over the bridges and underneath them. They began to pick like areas between Ma'azi, which is an affluent neighborhood, and what across it is Dar es Salaam, which is a low-income kind of neighborhood. And they began to look at the manifestations that was between and how it is, if it was the one side that was on Ma'azi would be very extremely well or good, in a good condition, while the one in Dar es Salaam right across the other passage is in a dilapidated situation. So they began to paint it extravagantly in yellow, orange, red, purple, blue, and magenta. And it was really striking that they began even to paint the 26th July corridor, part of it, that leads from the inner city to the hinterland and the gated communities. And going through, so when you go through these kind of corridors or ring roads or freeways that move you from the center to the satellite cities, we have to go through informal areas. So what the government does and what the municipality does is that they try to cover the informalities around by creating some kind of shields, white shields, so that whoever is in the car will not have to see the informality. So what they did is actually they began to paint it with the paint and the colors so that it will expose what behind is a moment of corruption. And this is an eye-opening thing, is that the activism was not just in this country. The notion of activism had to touch on every single basis around the city and throughout the city. But also, it's not just about connections and inside Tahrir Square, because even inside gated communities, we have to understand that there are internal politics within the class power. So those who constitute the upper middle do not necessarily come from the same background. There are people who are capitalists of the Muslim Brotherhood. There are people of different backgrounds. There are people from the military. There are people who are technocrats. They are based on different kind of constituents. And this is where we have to realize that we need to address things, because the nation is manufactured through difference, and it becomes a product of harmonization and hegemony. So what we witnessed is that post 2013, that there was riots and even protests inside gated communities by cops who began to feel that they were massacred in October 2011, and they need to speak out, even in the gated communities where their neighbors were people in the military in high rank who are ruling the country.
So, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Pause for 1 second. Uma coisa interessante é que a tradução, graças à fantástica tradução, que a versão português é muito mais clara que a versão inglês. Então, se vocês são bilíngues, mas que falam português, por favor, usam a tradução, porque a tradução em português é muito mais clara que o que estamos escutando em inglês, porque eles estão traduzindo. Sorry, Momen, we're doing Spanish, but you're being heard perfectly well in Portuguese. The irony is that the English is very hard to understand. Can you move back from your phone microphone just a little bit? Can you hear me, Momen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just try to.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Speak. Speak now.
Hello? Yes?
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, keep going. About 5 or 6 more minutes, but try to keep away from the microphone so it's maybe a little clearer. Sorry, we're doing this.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Oh, it's great now, actually. Thank you. Keep going. Thank you.
Okay, great. So, basically, do you want me to wrap up, or from where I...
6 more minutes, please.
Yeah, so let me... Okay, so let's understand the city. The city is not a framework, but a social practice in constant flux. The more it becomes an issue, the more it is a source of contradiction. And the more its social manipulation is linked to the ensemble of social and political conflicts, that then the true spirit of contestation comes along. Tactics of activists are produced from the realities on the ground, and it should not be centered in one space. It is about rendering the invisible visible, and this is what we are left with today. Tahrir Square is gone in terms of protesting there, but is it gone for good, or are there tactics and are there practices that do exist in universities, that still exist in every single moment of confrontation between the governed and the governing? And this can come in the most subtle way. And this is basically what we are left with. And in that regard, Tahrir becomes, it's a framework of opportunity that propels ideas and questions. It is about thinking about the formation of subjects and citizens in relation to security. It opens up what is the public and what is the private realm. The public space of Tahrir that was then locked off by walls and the security created security detectors, or is it more of, no, we have to go beyond this and think about Tahrir as becoming a process of generating dialectical sites of conversation between the center and the periphery, rather than a fixed site in itself. It actually uncovers the power relationships between the governing and the governed in an unprecedented and open manner. And this is where we are left with today. I think this is where a lot of activists, even in the United States and in Rio de Janeiro, I think we are left with is that what after this moment, how would we generate and move into the rest and render the invisible visible?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Momen. Wait 1 minute. So, Amanda, então, nessa vez a gente não vai ter questões. No. So thank you, Momen. Because of those very strange technical limitations, we are going to just have to end the call, and then we'll have our own conversation here. But we will give you a full update.
Okay.
I know this is very strange, but
okay, yes.
The best we can do.
Okay. You're welcome, Anwar. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to hear your comments and the feedback. And show it, you know what, whenever it's possible, show them the slides. And look, you will connect with it.
And we will send you the, we're going to send you the link so you can watch us live on your computer, so you can follow the event as it's live.
Please.
So we're going to send that to you by email and by text. Okay, so thank you, Momen.
Great, okay. Thank you, Amor. Thank you, Habib. Bye.
Ok, agradeço muito a paciência, então, esse cara tem feito 6 semanas de esforços,
de esforço para conseguir visto e passagem e preparar o paper, então eu sei que não foi clara, mas não queria calar o cara, e ele tem preparado isso. A gente vai ter a cópia escrita para circular. Na verdade, foi um paper muito especial para ligar aos circuitos de desigualdade na cidade, entre periferia, entre favela egípcia, e como os específicos espaços públicos foram ocupados em 2011 e como essas ocupações abriu possibilidades de outros imaginários totalmente distintas, que reintegrou a cidade de um jeito específico, e que mesmo se esses espaços foram sufocados, esses movimentos foram reprimidos, os imaginários e os metáforos que seguiram de espaços específicos seguem relevantes, seguem com potência a transformar, mesmo se os espaços que foram a origem daqueles metáforos imaginários foram sufocados e reprimidos pela contra-revolução. Então a ideia dali é que o espaço e as ocupações em espaços específicos, mesmo se são reprimidas, têm outra vida fantásmica, imaginária, que é muito poderosa, mesmo se fracassam no presente, né? Então, mas ele falou muito mais claro que isso, né, gente? Então, would you like to introduce? Desculpe que eu estou entendendo.
A gente está tentando conexão também com a outra palestrante, que seria Thenjiwe McHarris, mas ela não sei. Amanda, o que a gente faz? Começa?
A gente vai tentar agora.
Então a gente vai tentar antes, se conseguir, senão a gente já passa para fala do Christian.
É só para vocês saberem, é a última, agora 10 minutos mais, a última coisa que a gente vai fazer, que não é vivo dentro da sala, né? A última coisa, porque tem duas pessoas, agora ela vai, a Izabel vai apresentá-la, mas ela também ia chegar, e anteontem foi com uma bolsa do governo americano, e 48 horas atrás a bolsa foi cortada. Então a gente quer também que ela sente que ela está aqui entre nós de um jeito. Então eu agradeço sua paciência, eu sei que é difícil, mas é para eles, para ela, que a gente quer que ela sente que queria muito ficar entre a gente. Então, apresentar ela aí.
Bom, conseguiram conexão? A Thenjiwe McHarris, ela trabalha no Black Lives Matter, né? Atua no militante do Black Lives Matter, trabalha na Anistia Internacional também, e ela tem então uma carreira política e profissional voltada para lutar contra as injustiças de prisão de pessoas pobres. Então, não sei se a gente passa agora. Vamos ver.
Sim, estamos chegando.
E como vocês podem ver, a não vinda dela também passa por essas questões.
É mesmo.
A ausência.
Ok. Então, Thenjiwe é uma das fundadoras desse movimento. Oh, sorry. Ok. Uma das fundadoras do movimento super relevante na mídia. Hello? Hello, hey, yes, how are you doing? That's all right. We are very happy that you can spend a few minutes with us. The reason why we don't have Skype and internet is because there's a wonderful student movement resisting government cuts. And so they've taken over the university, but the technology has been cut, so we have to go back to using telephones. So we're going to put you on a speaker, is that okay? And they're going to be able to hear you. So you can introduce yourself a little bit, and have you introduced you, but you can introduce yourself a little bit more, and then go for it. We've got 100-something people here listening to you. All right. All right. It's going to be in 5 seconds. I'm going to put the plug in the phone. Here it comes. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, you're loud and clear. Go ahead.
Oh, beautiful. Peace, everybody.
Peace.
I'm sorry that I can't be there with you in person, but I join you from within the United States, specifically New York City, in Brooklyn. As you probably already know, my name is Thenjiwe. Thenjiwe Smika McHarris, more specifically. I was born in the Bronx, and I am the granddaughter of a beautiful woman who came to the U.S., to New York from Jamaica, and helped raise me along with my mother. Politically, I've always been rooted in Black organizing and movement building in the U.S., but my life has been blessed in a way where I've been able to learn from movements in different parts of the world, and my analysis has been informed by those movements, by those lessons, by those folks who have decided to resist in the midst of hostility, in the midst of a political climate that sought to repress both their communities and their resistance. And so I'm very much an internationalist, and my lens is very much informed by internationalism. And about 2 years ago, I formed an organization called Blackbird. And Blackbird is really a team of people who hold the question, which is how do we build a strong movement within the U.S. that is dedicated to Black liberation? And then how do we also build the kind of movement that understands that collective liberation is very much tied to Black liberation, and that collective liberation is only achieved if we reach a point where we build the kind of movement that sees no geographical boundaries, that the ways in which power is currently constructed, that there really is going to be a need for a kind of global resistance willing to confront power and challenge the ways in which the world is currently configured, both economically and politically. So that's a bit about who I am and the organization that I work with and co-founded. And we really have been focusing on what we call here in the U.S. the movement for Black lives. So again, thinking about how do we strengthen the movement for Black lives? How does the movement for Black lives grow? And also, what are the political interventions that are necessary? What are necessary in order to strengthen and grow the movement? But also, what is necessary in order to really confront power? Not just in a way that is symbolic politically, but in a way that can actually impact the material conditions of Black people in this country, of all oppressed people in this country, and really around the world. And so that's a bit about who I am. And what I'd like to share a little bit is just a bit of a context of the U.S. Sort of how have we, some of my thinking, and also some of the questions that I'm holding of why we've arrived at this point in terms of a Trump presidency, where we're at this point almost days away from entering into what many are calling the sort of emergence of neo-fascism, the emergence of right-wing authoritarian rule, and also a sort of shift from neoliberalism. And so I'll talk a little bit about sort of the history and the context, and then I'll share some of the things that I've been thinking about in terms of what is the threat assessment to vulnerable communities in the United States, but also around the world under a Trump presidency. And then some of my thoughts around what I think and what many people think that I've been engaging with here at home is what we must do now in the moment. So what this moment calls for. And again, many times I have more questions than I have answers, and I'm sad that I'm not with you all, because I feel like the space that you're in now is the kind where we generate ideas that are critical for resistance work, and it really does take sort of the kind of spaces where folks who engage in movement work and thinking from different parts of the world really sort of struggle and challenge each other and engage in the kind of conversations that surface what's it actually going to take to win, not just in particular countries but around the world. So again, I'm sad and I'm not there, but because of where we are, I had to make a choice not to travel to Brazil. So again, I'll start with a little bit about the history of this country. Someone asked me yesterday that we've always been struggling for the soul of this country, and I beg the question on when has there been a soul of the United States? I mean, the U.S. was founded on the idea of taking both land and people for the purposes of profit and for the purposes of building wealth and for the purposes of acquiring property. And so that's the history of this country, but there's always been a history of resistance. And so where there's been anti-Black racism, there's been a history of resistance and people fighting for an end to Black suffering and Black liberation. Where there's been a history of xenophobia and anti-immigration, anti-immigrant rhetoric and policies and practices, there's always been a commitment and a history of resistance from folks who are fighting for their families not to be deported and fighting for the kind of human rights that they deserve both in this country and around the world, and also fighting to surface the reality that people from different parts of the world uniting in this space is actually what makes this country special and important and function, and that has always been our truth. And when there's been a history of sexism and sexual assault and gender-based violence, there's always been a resistance movement led by women and femmes who have not just countered the aggression, but have informed all movements in terms of what is a radical feminist lens means to approaching liberation work. And again, in terms of sort of this country, ingrained in the culture is the putting of profit over people, and it has led to the kind of suffering of poor people and economic inequality that it's not just normalized, it's sort of a cornerstone of American culture. And so what we understand in terms of the context is as our movements have been building, in terms of countering anti-Black racism, in terms of countering xenophobia, sexism, in terms of countering transphobia and homophobia, and again, the prioritizing of profit over people, what we have to also recognize is that as our movements became popular, as our movements were building power, a lot of times political power, symbolic power, the right has always been organizing. The right, and in particular the far right, has always been thinking about how to consolidate, how to build power, and how to take public office. And what is critical, and a lesson that I've learned in this moment, is it is insufficient to build power and build movements without thinking about what will be the backlash. How do we undermine what the right is preparing to do in order not just to spit in the face of our gains, but in order to win. They are thinking about their own victory. And what we've learned from a Trump win and a Trump victory is that the thing more scarier than Donald Trump himself is the demand for Trump, the desire for Trump. Trump is more of a symbol than a human being. And so long before Trump and long after Trump, what we're going to need to deal with in this country is this fact which is ingrained in the culture, ingrained in the fabric of this country, ingrained in also the resentment that has been growing the more wins that many of us Black, Muslim, immigrant, woman, queer, trans, the gains that we have won, there's been a growing resentment rooted in hate, rooted in a desire to win, rooted in a desire to make sure that this country does not abandon white power and does not abandon a deep desire to dominate, to rule, and also to dominate and rule not just within this country but around the world. And so we've seen that with Donald Trump's rhetoric, and we've seen that from the rhetoric of those who hoisted him into office. Donald Trump, as you all know, is not just a threat to all marginalized, impacted, and vulnerable communities within the U.S. He's a threat to all of us. But what we've also seen is that there's a global trend around the world of moving to the right, of gaining political office, of repopularizing authoritarianism, of right-wing control, of fascism, and now neo-fascism. This is a global trend. But what's beautiful and what's powerful is that there's also been another global trend, which is one of resistance, and one where we are becoming even more closer to each other. We are inspiring each other. A mobilization in Brazil or in South Africa or in Egypt has the potential to inspire a mobilization in Brooklyn, New York, or in Paris. We have within us the power to build a kind of resistance movement in the world that has the capacity to win. But what we cannot forget is that they understand that, which is why we've seen what we've seen, the global trends that we've seen today. And so Trump is not an anomaly, nor is he an isolated incident. He sort of fits perfectly within a global trend to make sure that we don't see victory in our lifetime, in our children's lifetime. But the important thing to remember is that the choice is not theirs. The choice is ours. And what we do, I think this generation of movement practitioners and organizers will help determine whether or not our children will see the kind of victory that we've imagined for ourselves. And so this kind of goes into, I think, of what we must do in this moment and what the questions that I'm holding in this moment. But before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about the threat. What's important for me to say is that the threat didn't start with Trump and his administration. We've always been living under a threat. We've lived under a threat of previous administrations, and we've also lived under the Obama administration. We will not be, surveillance will not be new to our movement. We've been surveilled under the Obama administration. What will be new is an increase of surveillance. What will be new is sort of an increase of the ways in which they're choosing to criminalize not just communities, but political acts, political behaviors, our political activities will see an increase in criminalization from the federal government. And so what we see the potential for is a worsening of conditions, not just of our people, but for our movement in order to both build and function. And so that's an important threat assessment that I'm holding as I think about what we must do. And what we also are seeing even more so of is groups that are emboldened in this movement. You know, what people will say is that those who voted for Trump just have a higher tolerance for racism, or a higher tolerance for sexism, or a higher tolerance for homophobia or xenophobia. But I think what actually has happened is there is a base in this country whose principles and values and their agenda is founded on domination, is founded on rule, and a rule that's led by white men, by white cis men, by white straight men, heterosexual men. And so there is a group of people in this country who have always had that agenda. And they've been here, certainly since my ancestors were brought here and since they took this land. And they've never gone anywhere. And again, that's something that is important, and a lesson that I've learned is we can never underestimate people who will call us enemies. And I think we did that. But what we know to be true is that group has always been thinking about victory and winning. And what they've done is they've used the anxieties, the economic anxieties of communities. They've used and they've flared white anxiety, white people who are seeing political gains and being told things that the reason why you may not have what you have or as much as what you want to have is because of this other that looks nothing like you, and that there's a grouping of people whose agenda it is to use those anxieties to build their movement. And so we have to acknowledge that. But we also have to acknowledge is that movement, that group of people now feel like they have now seen a victory. And so that group is now emboldened more than ever. And so what we also have to hold in terms of our threat assessment is that we will likely see an increase in hateful rhetoric, but also violence. And so our communities are more vulnerable than they've ever been to this group of people that, in a lot of ways, have almost been silent, have almost been quiet, but now are emerging victoriously. And we're seeing that in images that are coming on the TV screen or our television screen of them celebrating. And I think the last piece, well, two other pieces that I'll say is, again, the threat is not just the people in this country, but around the world. But we also, and then I'll close soon, the biggest threat for me is an attempt to drag this country significantly farther to the right than it's been in decades. And what we've done in social movements, I think a lot of what we do is we're fighting like hell to drag this country a little bit closer to justice. And now the threat is that there is now a base that feels victorious, that is organizing to drag this country even farther than to the right than we've imagined, to an extent than we've even prepared for. And so the hard choice in this moment is, what are we willing to do to interrupt that so that our children don't inherit a home that is even worse than the one that I was born into, that does not do justice to my ancestors or the elders that came before me. And so what are we willing to do to disrupt that? What's the interventions that are required in order to prevent the dragging of this country to the right? So then I'll close in terms of what I think we must do in this moment. The first is, under no circumstances can we comply. There is no compliance or engagement with each other.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Can you stick with us for 5 more minutes for a couple questions?
Sure.
Great. Okay, thank you. Christian, we'll keep you for the next panel that you're originally scheduled, right? Because you were in the substitute for Thenjiwe, but we got it. Okay, just 1 second.
Bom, a gente vai então manter o Christian para o próximo painel. Agradecer de você ter. No próximo painel a gente vai ouvir a fala dele. Abrir para perguntas. Quem gostaria então de fazer perguntas para nossa expositora que está em Nova York?
I wasn't able to hear that. Amar, would you mind repeating it?
Oh, we're just telling people that we're now going to take questions. We haven't got the question yet.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, here we go. 1 second.
Na verdade, é mais um comentário do que uma pergunta, né? Eu queria agradecer muito por esse seminário. Eu sinto que eu estou esperando um momento como esse desde 2013, né? Que a gente estava nas ruas e a gente estava acompanhando as coisas que estavam acontecendo no Egito e a sensação era de que era tudo muito parecido e os desdobramentos também foram muito parecidos, né? E a fala dela me fez recordar muitas reflexões que eu tenho feito nesses últimos anos. Eu sou aqui do Neon, eu estudo Oriente Médio e boa parte do meu interesse em estudar Oriente Médio, entre vários motivos, é um pouco essa troca, essa necessidade dessa troca. E o quanto a gente aprende e se fortalece mesmo com saber que está existindo essa resistência em vários lugares, né? Então ela mencionou isso e eu queria dizer que sim, assim, todo esse movimento que a gente vê nos Estados Unidos, quando o Trump ganhou e várias pessoas foram para a rua para dizer, olha, a gente está aqui, a gente não vai deixar isso acontecer ou esquecer que isso é uma normalidade, como ela colocou. Isso para mim foi muito significativo por causa desse momento que a gente está vendo no Brasil, do golpe político, de todas essas perdas de direitos que eles estão querendo impor na gente. Então, na verdade, era mais um comentário de dizer que sim, que eu compartilho isso, assim, fico feliz de saber que a resistência que a gente está fazendo aqui está tendo efeito em outros lugares, porque às vezes a gente sente que a gente está falando só pra gente, né, por causa desse monopólio da mídia, assim. Eu sou professora do ensino médio, eu estou em greve, minha escola está ocupada, eu tenho amigos que nem sabem que a gente está em greve, que a educação toda está em greve. Então, eu fico feliz de saber que, no mínimo, a gente está conseguindo se fortalecer mesmo à distância, assim, fazer essas redes e essa troca à distância. Eu queria agradecer muito a fala dela, por sentir que, assim, nunca vi ela, mas compartilho pensamentos, e agradecer pelo seminário como um todo.
So we just got the second half translated, but she started out just thanking you for that presentation and for the whole context here in when she was a questioner, had participated in the mass uprisings here during the protests in 2013, and they had seen many resonances with the Middle East and with the United States. But in this moment of Trump, just like in the moment post-impeachment in Brazil, this question of normalization of this kind of response, and the state response, resisting that, and how to learn on a larger scale how to resist this new structure without falling into any kind of complacency was very inspiring. It was more of a commentary than a question at this point. Are you still with us then, Jen?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So. Yes. Yes. Okay. So, can you want to ask it in English? Português.
Bom dia, meu nome é Luciane, sou daqui do Rio de Janeiro. Eu tenho uma pergunta sobre o seu comentário sobre a importância de gerar ideias críticas para a resistência, né? Eu morei nos Estados Unidos há algum tempo e pude perceber a mobilização, né, também de estudantes, parecido com o que estamos tendo aqui, mas pude ver também uma abertura grande de alguns departamentos e alguns professores de integrar no currículo, né, ideias que vêm dos movimentos sociais, né, uma maior integração com a comunidade. Eu queria saber de você como que é a atuação com vocês, colaboração com as universidades, como que vocês dialogam com os acadêmicos, né? Eu sei que muitos dos jovens do Black Lives Matter são acadêmicos também, então eu queria saber um pouco dessa relação, né, com academia e ativismo para construir ideias críticas, como você diz, muito importante.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Just to make sure I have the question, the question essentially is how do we engage and collaborate with academia and those within academic institutions to build movement? That's the question, right? Amar, I just want to make sure. Okay.
New ways to study, new ways to produce ideas in collaboration with the university. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So the one thing I'll say is as you all know, critical thinking is not just bound to the academy or academic institutions, but those spaces are homes for some people, and to think about and imagine critically how to understand our conditions, and then also how do we confront them. And the one thing that I'll say is I feel like some of us who are outside of the academy, the relationships that we have with those who are in it have been really critical for me. I mean, the relationships that I have with almost what I'll call movement theoreticians and scholars has been important for me to sort of study history and also study movements around the world and study the ways in which repression has operated around the world, and then also begin to imagine how do we resist. And so I think the first I'll say is the first key, or the first thing I hold around collaboration with folks within the academy is how can we create spaces that are encouraging, challenging, principled struggle and generating thought, and also spaces that are leaning towards creativity, that are leaning towards innovation, that are leaning towards experimentation, not just for the sake of experimentation, but grounded in study and grounded in analysis. But we actually have to be willing to think new things in this moment in order to sort of rise to the occasion. And so how can we collaborate with those in those spaces so that we can together create the kind of spaces that generate that kind of thinking? Because I think that those in the academies have certain privileges. They have access to resources, they have access to study, they have access to reading, there's access there. And those who are outside of the academy are actually in need for those spaces and those resources in order to really ground ourselves in the kind of study that's necessary in order to fight and build the kind of resistance movement that's necessary. So I think I'll stop there. I think there's a number of ways to answer and respond to that question, but I also think that what's important, and then I'll stop, is in every sphere of our life, I think around the world, and certainly in this country, we have a choice, whether we're a policymaker or a lawyer or a social worker, or we work in the entertainment business, or we work in the academy. We have a choice on whether or not we're going to maintain our own version of status quo. And in the academic realm, there's certainly its own version of what status quo. How do we maintain the kind of ways in which order has been maintained, the ways in which social control has been maintained. And so the other piece I have around folks in the academy is how is that being challenged? How is sort of our function and our role in maintaining the status quo in the world, how can that be disrupted in a way in which not just sort of disrupts and intervenes the status quo, but actually helps support resistance work? Because I think what's super powerful is while these institutions can help maintain the status quo, these institutions can also help break it. And so how are we sort of being accomplices to those within the academy in their efforts to disrupt that and also help feed a resistance movement with study and with research and with analysis? And how are we sort of working together across sectors and across sort of silos to challenge each other, to be creative in our understanding of history, and to be creative and willing to lean towards risk, experimentation, new things, in order to build the kind of movement that we need to build in order to win.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, I think that's a perfect. Here. All right. So,
not in front of the speaker. So thank you very much. I think that was a perfect way to launch this conference and this conversation, which is in the end all about making the most of the university's energies and resources and complementing the most creative and challenging forms of resistance that we can bring to the table at this point. So Thenjiwe, thank you very, very much. You got us started on a great start. I'm going to pass this back to Lucia that I've stolen the microphone from. So thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I just say hi? I'm a comrade and a sister of mine, and I know she's in the room. So sending love to you, Catalina, and thank you, Amar, and everybody for making this happen and for allowing me to join you.
Thank you so much. All right. We are very grateful. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bom, então vamos encerrar a palestra de abertura. Conseguimos fazer a transmissão, né, com os dois palestrantes por telefone. Foi década de 70, segundo o Paul Amar, mas funcionou, deu tudo certo. Então, convidar todos para retornarem às 2 horas. Aí a gente vai poder ouvir o Christian, a mesa Primavera Árabe e a criminalização de protestos em perspectivas transregionais. Vou convidar a todos para retornarem às 14 horas. Agora temos um intervalo para o almoço. Obrigada a todos e todas.